But the GDP, the gross domestic product of the United States in the first quarter of 2022 actually contracted by 1.4%. And so what happens is when you have GDP contraction 2 quarters in a row, that is what the official indicator is for a recession. And so at the end of June here, based on how everything's going, I believe very strongly that we are in a recession already and that it's just going to be confirmed. Hey, what's going on, cash flow hackers? It's Chris with Life 180, and for this video, we're gonna be talking about something I think is really important in the economy right now, and that is how to invest money during a recession. Now, I don't know if you are aware of this or not, but the GDP, the gross domestic product of the United States in the first quarter of 2022 actually contracted by 1.4%. And so what happens is when you have GDP contraction 2 quarters in a row, that is what the official indicator is for a recession. And so at the end of June here, based on how everything's going, I believe very strongly that we are in a recession already and that it's just going to be confirmed that we are in a recession. And when you look at the fact that GDP contracted, and when you look at some of the numbers that I've been putting out in some of my short content on YouTube and TikTok, and you look at the fact that the inflation for energy and all these things are going up, but things like cell phones, smartphones, things like flat screen TVs, things like jewelry, sporting events, those are all things that actually saw contraction in those markets. So instead of having inflation, we had deflation in those markets, and that is an indicator showing that we just don't have the money to spend on these things because people are getting just eaten up by inflation. And this is what we call stagflation, because wage growth is not keeping up with actual inflation, and therefore it's having a negative impact on people's lifestyle, right? And so what I want to talk about, and I think it's not talked about enough, is the importance of financial structure. Like, most people struggle when it comes to their personal finances because they don't have their personal finances designed properly. One of the things that I'm really, really passionate about is the fact that we know that we're going to have, say, a 40-year career at most. And honestly, I don't even think it should take that long. But kind of the old American dream of go to school, get a job, invest in your 401k or IRA or qualified account or whatever it is, it's basically a 40-year window. Start working about in your mid-20s, retire in your mid-60s, and let the rest fall where it is, right? And that's kind of the goal. And so everybody shoots for retirement. I think if you're shooting for that, I think you're kind of looking at the game not with a full, like, optimistic lens of what you can actually accomplish. And B, I just think that we know, if we look at the market, we know that it's cyclical. We know it's not linear. And so I think one of the biggest lies that's told in the financial industry is the younger you are, the more risk you can take. I tell you, the younger you are, the less risk you have to take, because you understand the power of compounding interest. And the deal is, the greatest threat to compounding interest is you losing your money, right? And so you don't need to. The younger you are, the less risk you need to take, because you have time and ability to contribute on your side, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through what I think everybody in the world should be doing. And this is in general, but it's extremely, extremely impactful and important that you take this to heart because of the fact that we're going into a recession. And so what I want to do is hop over here to the whiteboard and kind of get into this a little bit with you. And so what I want to do here is I want to talk about this. So if you talk to any certified financial planner that went and got their CFP, what they're going to do is they're going to tell you, and they're going to say, hey, listen, as a CFP, let me see here. Boom. As a CFP, we are taught this financial pyramid, and the financial pyramid is basically saying that you got to build your finances and your personal financial life from the bottom up, right? And so what does that mean? That means we got to have the safe money. That's the emergency fund. That's your opportunity fund, which is like my favorite thing in the world. That's your insurances. It's stuff of that nature, right? It's your savings account, right? It's your monthly expenses. It's any like umbrella, car, auto, right? I'm not going to get into everything. It's if you want to have anything in here, it's your safe, guaranteed, liquid, accessible cash, and it's your protections. That's really the foundation of your financial life. Now, we have to do this. Now, I'm a big believer that the financial foundation of your life should be 2 years of income. Now, I know that sounds like an astronomical number to most people, but I call it 2 years of income because if you look at the U.S. Department of Labor statistics, as far as how long it takes to get a job in down economies, because we can't think about it during positive economies because the emergency fund isn't designed for positive times, it's designed for the hard times, right? And so in down economies, it takes the average person to find a job about 1 month for every $10,000 of desired income to find a job. So I say 2 years of income needs to be in safe, liquid, accessible accounts because you want 1 year, because if you make 100 grand, for instance, you need 10 months of money to sit there, right? You whatever it is, you need, it's all relevant, right? And so I say you need 2 years of income, 1 year for emergency and 1 year for opportunity, because you make money. And what I'm going to show you here is you make money in opportunity. Now, the biggest problem is this is not, over here, we got about 5% of people, right? 5% of people that actually design their financial life like this. Unfortunately, we have about 95% of people that design their money in this way. And let's get into this a little bit. So I'm not sure if you know this or not, but there was a study that was done in 2015. And that study showed, and I know the numbers actually have gotten a little worse, but I don't have all the statistics up to date for today, but I'm telling you, it's pretty gross. I saw a statistic the other day that said the average American family is $383 a month or less away from insolvency or bankruptcy, right? So inflation is just pushing people into this really, really hard point. But the bottom line is, remember, this is the safe money. Unfortunately, rather than people building their foundation over, like I'm talking about over in the good pyramid, we have what we call an inverted pyramid, and people are building their financial safety and their savings in high risk assets like 401ks, IRAs, stocks, because they bought into the lie that the younger you are, the more risk you can take. And so they don't save, they invest. And there's a big difference. And the difference between saving and investing is a function of risk, right? And so you need to understand those two things. So what happens is up here, because people have money in their high risk accounts and they're not saving enough, 64% of Americans don't have $2,000 accessible in case of emergency. Right? Like that's a nasty, nasty number. Why is that the case? Because I'm just going to write this out here. Why is that the case? Well, because like I said, their money is tied up here. And so did you know in 2014, what happens if you have your money sitting in a 401k? Well, what happens when you have to tap into a 401k or IRA before you're 59 and a half? Well, you have to pay taxes and penalty. Well, I got news for you. You're paying taxes anyway, regardless, because you're putting it in a tax deferred account. So that's another story. I've got plenty of videos on why I think qualified accounts are just perilous, and you're in business with the worst money manager of all time, which is the United States government, and they have the ability to tax that money away from you. Not all, if you had $1 million in your IRA or 401k, not all that $1 million is yours. If you're in a 20% tax bracket right now, $800,000 of that is yours and $200,000 is the government. But the bottom line is the government has the ability to raise your tax rate to 35 or 40%. And guess what? From a long-term historical perspective, traditionally speaking, people in the 20% bracket right now or 22% bracket were typically in the 35 or 40% bracket. And so taxes have to go up. And when you look at the fact that we're $30 trillion in debt in debt as a nation, 150 trillion of unfunded liabilities, Social Security is underfunded. We have all these things going on. Interest rates are coming up. The national deficit, the annual deficit for our country is going up and up and up. It's going to take more to support this debt. The tax base is going to have to be increased. And the only way to do that is to increase taxes on the masses, not just the wealthy. Because as bad as things are, we could tax 100% of the wealthiest 1% in this country. It's still not going to solve the problem. That is a disgusting fact of this nature. And so the challenge is with this, when you look at this, check this out. 401ks, 2014. 401ks, people paid $14 billion in taxes and $7 billion in penalty. Right? This is just to access their own money. Right? So the problem with this is that what happens is people are designing their life improperly. They have their money going into these 401ks, right? And so what happens is then we come into this down economic environment and the market just gets throttled, right? Let's say the market gets crashed and it just goes down. What happens is the pyramid falls over because we built our whole life on this one piece of instability, right? Whereas if we went over here and let's say the market got tanked, right? And the market crashed. Well, we have this big, powerful base that we're dealing with that has that we have liquidity, use, and control of this money. Our life is protected. We cannot lose our value of this money because it's not invested with risk. Now what happens if we build our structure properly? Now we can say we go in here, and if we want to have these assets, the 401ks over here, right? IRA, if we want to do this, guess what? If we do it in the right order, we can lose half of this. And what happens to our world? Nothing. Because this whole thing, actually I'm going to do it this way. This whole thing is built on a foundation of awesomeness and stability, right? So now even if you lose this amount right here, it's just we still have this amount working for us, right? And that amount will have the opportunity to build back over time because you don't have to make bad decisions. But the problem is, this is why I always tell people, in hard economic times, I'm going to do this. Opportunity, spelled it wrong. There we go. So as opportunity goes down over here, it goes up over here. And here's the bottom line. If you got 95% of the people in this world struggling, right? The pendulum swings so far the other way. This is why the rich get richer and the poor get poor, because of financial design. They're operating like this. Their world falls over. And here's the deal. We know that this is going to be cyclical, right? We know every 8 to 12 years, for the past 200 years, our markets have gone through these cycles. It doesn't matter if it was before the Federal Reserve, after the Federal Reserve. The greatest lie, and Harry Dent says this the best, the economy is smarter than any economist, and it is going to do what it's going to do. And we can only control it so much. And it's been proven even during these economic recessions since 1913, when the Federal Reserve was instituted. We still have really, really challenging times, and the market is cyclical, and we have these downtimes. And so we know that it takes 8 to 12 years for the market to go up. But here's the deal. We know that, like, right, what's going on right now, these downtimes right here, these are the times when it's time to get wealthy. These moments are closer to these bottoms. Right? Closer to these bottoms. And the bottom line is, if you're dealing with this and you're operating in fear right here because of the fact that you have your life structured like this, right? And you're on that point of instability and you're operating in fear here, and then you lose your job, let's say right here, you lose your job and now you have to liquidate your account. And now you get down here and you have nothing. So instead of having your account there, you actually start here and you got to kind of start over. And then you probably are going to repeat the cycle and go down to zero and start over again. And that is what it is. But if we could keep our money safe and have a long-term perspective and stop trying to invest so soon, but save before we invest, but save with the intent of investing, waiting for these right economic environments, that's where we are now. So what I'm telling you right now, and I've been talking about this for like 6 months, because this has been coming, and anybody that hasn't seen this is just not paying attention. And so we're in a situation right now where you have the ability to get your money into safe places, to be able to wait, and whether you do it for the next run or whether you have the ability to get your money in a safe, liquid, accessible account that you can wait for this downturn right now. And instead of being fearful, you can be opportunistic. This is what, when I say we need to have an opportunity fund right here, that's what I'm talking about. You need to be an opportunistic investor profile. That is what creates wealth. And if you do this the right way, this is going to catapult your wealth forward. So when we talk about how do you make money in a recession, this is how. It starts with financial structure. It starts by eliminating the mindset of just buy and hold and ride the markets and whatever. That is a lie that is taught to you by Wall Street and all the money managers that are getting paid 1% to 2% managed money fees on your money when you're losing it. Think about it this way. I'm going to do this. If you have $100,000, right, and the market goes down 20%, you have $80,000 right now, right? Now, if you have to pay a 2% fee, minus 2% fee, because you are paying that fee either way, now that fee is going to be on this, and let's just say the 2% is on the 100,000, just to keep it round. It's going to be a little less than that, but whatever. You got another $2,000. Guess what? That's the equivalent of an extra 2%. You're paying them anyway. You're basically losing 22% of your money. So that's a 10%. It doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a 10% increase of the loss that you had. And so it makes it so you have to earn that much more, because if you understand the average rate of return, if you have $100,000 and you could do the math, I encourage you to go think about this and do it, and you lose 50%, right? And I know it sounds like a big number, but this is just to talk a principle, and you could do this with any number, and the principle is the principle. Go test it out. You lose 50%. How much you got? 50 grand. Now the next year, that's year one. Year two, you come back and you earn 100%. You got 100 grand again, right? 50,000, 100% return is 100 grand. So what is your average rate of return between these two? Well, most people would look at this and they would say it's 0%, right? And the reality is that's not the case, because you had a plus 100 year right here and a negative 50. So if you understand 100 minus 50 is 50 divided by 2 years equals 25%. So in this scenario, the average rate of return is 25%. And this is why I always tell people the average rate of return in your portfolio doesn't matter. When they say that the stock market has averaged 8.5% or whatever over 80-year period, that's not actually what it's returning. And so it's really, really important to understand that. And when you look at this and you understand this, that whole thing of buy and hold and ride the markets and all that stuff is designed for Wall Street to control your money and to get paid either way. You take the risk, they get the paycheck. It's the same reason I don't like 401ks. You're taking all the risk, and the government has the ability to just tax your money away from you. So you have market risk, you have taxation risk, you have all these different things going on. You have economic risk and needing to tap into that, paying penalties and taxes and all that stuff. So here's the deal. If we have a 40-year career, let's just say, I would encourage you to think about strategies where you invest for cash flow, where you could actually accomplish financial independence in about 15 years, right? Like, that's the way I would really start to think about it. And if you listen to what I'm talking about right now, you can set yourself up, set the foundation in your life up to be able to accomplish that. But let's just say you're buying into the old adage of the 40-year plan. Well, in this scenario, we know that we're going to have anywhere between 4 and 6 boom bust cycles, right? So we know there's going to be 4 to 6 times just like these, right? If we know that there's going to be 4 to 6 times just like those, why isn't everybody paying attention and integrating those cycles into their financial plan? Look at this. This is when the rich get richer. This is when the greatest gaps. Look at, when did the wealthy get wealthier? Last time, 2008, crash, right? When did it happen after that? 2020, COVID, crash. And the market bounced back. The wealthy got richer, right? But the people got hurt. Main Street America got hurt in those times. I could go back time and time and time again and show you this from a cyclical nature that this happens. So once again, why the heck isn't everybody building these moments into their plan? The goal is get your money safe, keep your money safe, build the safety, stop trying to keep up with the Joneses, stop having such a short-term mindset. Stop thinking you can accomplish so much this year, and start realizing people way overestimate what they can accomplish in a year and way underestimate what they can accomplish in a decade. You need to think long-term. You need to get your plan in place, and you need to have a vision of what you want to create, and you need to live into that vision and become more so you can accomplish the life that you want to live. Sorry, I know I sound intense right now. This is a really intense topic. We're going into really intense times, and I do this because I care so much, and I want to see people win. And I cannot stand the fact that the information and the lies, I was just watching the news and it was just getting me fired up. And it's just, honestly, it's just pissing me off as I watch and I see just the garbage that's coming out of the people's mouths on every news, even Fox News, even CNN, MSNBC. I flipped around. It was crazy. Like, it's garbage everywhere. Of course, today, as I'm filming this market, the markets are down like 800 points. And it's one of those bad days. You know, the Federal Open Market Committee just increased rates like an hour ago. As of the time I'm filming this video, they announced they're going to raise rates by 75 basis points in July. And so this is so important. If you have any questions, comment in the comment section below. If you have any questions as well and you want to talk to somebody, go down to the link in the description, set up a call with one of my Life 180 coaches. They can help give you a clarity call. They can help answer your questions. No sales pressure, no harm, no foul. It really is just there. Excuse me. It's really just there to be able to serve you and help you understand what's going on. I believe that nobody should invest in anything that they don't understand. And that's what this really comes down to. I want you to really understand what's going on and understand that you actually have control of the results in your life, even in times like this. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. If you haven't already, please subscribe, hit the bell, that way you get notified. Every time I launch a new video, I'm going to be doing a lot of videos on this. So that's it. Have a blessed, inspirational day. We'll talk soon.